Kamahl, welcome to the podcast. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Duncan. Thanks for inviting me.
How have you been?
Do you want the long answer or the short answer? It's been a very tough. 18 months now. It has been. It's been a roller coaster. It's been a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting on myself and my own behaviour, and revisiting who I was, who I thought I was, and all those sorts of things. So there is a lot of personal reflection, but there's also a lot of, I think I've used the word anger at the way that I ended up getting portrayed, at the behaviour of media, at the tactics used by media, and just this ongoing thing. The fact that 18 months later, I'm still where I was almost. Haven't moved on.
Are you angry?
Yeah. I'm angry. I'm upset. I'm angry for my family as well, who've been, put through the ringer through all of this as well. And my wife and daughter, my parents, my sister and her family, all of that. And I'm sad that it came to all of this. I always knew my departure from TVNZ would be, well covered, but I, as I say, I can't sort of believe that 18 months later I'm still where I am.
Yeah, it's interesting that 18 months and you're still in the same space. Just let me, how are you living day to day? Because you're not working, obviously.
Nope. I launched my own website earlier this year, but it's a project trying to get off the ground. Basically, it's not a money making endeavour.
Yeah. How are you coping? How are you dealing with life? How do you afford to live?
You chew through your savings is what you do. And you just you survive. I know there are any number of people in a worse off position than me, but yeah, it is a real struggle. It is.
Your wife stuck by you?
Yes, my absolute rock. My wife and my daughter. My as I said, my parents and my sister. My sister, who's also a journalist, and came in for a lot of attention as well in the industry. They were all we had here. Remembering my wife and daughter and I had only been in the country 6 weeks when all of this happened. My wife and daughter had never lived here. We'd left a life of 16 years and a solid job of 16 years to come here, and it all got blown up in 6 weeks' time. So, I'm not saying this for pity or anything. I'm just saying it so that people understand the other side of things, because I don't think this is the side that people hear about or think about and don't think about the consequences.
Well, the human cost of it, you mean?
Exactly.
How has your mental health been?
Rotten. I went to a very dark place in the initial days after I left TVNZ, because it was the media attention was so intense. It was being hounded out of my house, having details of where I lived and my car and colour and make of the car and the value of the house and all that published online by the media. Not doxing as such, but it was plenty of information put out there. Media coming to the house.
They tried to push through the door?
That was sort of that was probably about 4 or 5 months later. Was another and look, there were reporters still coming to my house only 4 or 5 months ago, still trying to get the story. There was one reporter who tried to push their way, and we were having renovations done at the house, and they were talking to my contractors and saying, "Oh, is he leaving? Is he are they leaving the country?" And then when my wife went to go and talk to the reporter was physically walking through the door and had to be pushed back out effectively. I just that has a huge effect. But yeah, those early days, I'm literally sitting in the bathroom, reading the ingredients. Ingredients, is that the word? On the back of bottles of toilet cleaner and things that are in there.
You're going to take your own life.
And looking at what would be the most effective, what would actually put. Yeah. My family had me on a 24-hour suicide watch at one point. And that included my daughter. My daughter was sitting there reading stories to me. to keep me distracted. And
So you were looking at taking that serious step of ending your life.
And it's funny because I always I'd always looked at people who, you know, when you see someone's taking their own life and in a controversial circumstance, you would think, oh, well, nothing says guilt like suicide, you know, and it's just not that. It's that not seeing a way out because it's so intense. And I think it's magnified here because it's a smaller place. And you just think, this isn't going to stop. And in many ways it hasn't. But that acute period, you feel like it's not going to stop.
Did it stop? Because to me, what you're telling me today is it almost hasn't stopped.
No, it hasn't. I mean, there's still, you know, I still get random abusive messages. When I put out a statement earlier this year, death threats. I had death threats at the time as well, as did, you know, my wife had threats against her as well. You know, you just saw the horrible underbelly of society there, and you know, a huge effect on my family. My daughter, who's 14. Again, only just moved to the country, going to a new school. We had to change her surname, because hey, Santamaria, that's gonna that's gonna attract a wee bit of attention. So again, all these things that happen, and on top of it, the sort of tactics that get used by people, and I'm talking, you know, everyday Joe and the media as well. I've written about this already. The fact that one reporter from a New Zealand media outlet in particular was just desperate to find me, staked out the street and the house where my sister and her family are, where my daughter was at the time, and then when a car left with my daughter in it, followed that car to my parents' house where I happened to be at the time.
Are these unfamiliar tactics, though? You're a journalist. You sort of, I don't know if you've ever been involved in that, but you would have known that these things happen.
Not necessarily.
Right.
I would not do that. I'm not here to sound sanctimonious or anything. I would not do that. Family is off limits. Children are off limits. I was not in that car.
And they usually have been in this country, to be honest. From the politics that I've covered, the children are usually, you don't touch them.
Yeah, well, this was, you know, the friends who were driving that car had to do circuits of the block to you know, until this person gave up. And they didn't give up. They still came and knocked on my parents' door as well. So yeah. It's surreal.
You've been doing it tough. You've been doing it tough.
It's surreal, actually, sitting here and talking and thinking back on it all. It's, yeah.
Take me back to TVNZ then. So you start, you come across, you start, and you do your 30-odd days, and then tell us about that day that it all turned nasty. What happened?
Can't really talk about that for
Can't
legal
say?
reasons. No.
Okay.
No.
What about the incidents or the incident itself that you've talked about you've written about it?
Yes, I have. Yeah. Look, the incident itself, as TVNZ have said themselves, you know, there was a matter that was raised with management, and then I resigned X number of days later. As I say, for legal reasons, I am limited in what I can say.
What you've already said is there was an inappropriate touch or touching. That's what you've said on your.
Yes.
So what can you say about the allegation?
Look, suffice to say, I'd come to TVNZ to do a job. I'd brought my family and my life here, and I didn't want to leave that job. I was forced to resign, and then everything kind of exploded from there. In the sort of vacuum of information, as I've now discovered, and being on the other side of a story, how quickly stories and inaccuracies and half-truths and all that spread.
Do you think you've been unfairly characterised?
Unfairly characterised? Yes. Yes. I think that...
Or do you think you were inappropriate towards a woman?
Outside of TVNZ, because obviously other people made accusations about me during my time at Al Jazeera, and I've had to reflect on that and look at my own behaviour. Anything I did was never... There was never any intent to abuse my position of power, or to make people feel uncomfortable, or to make someone uncomfortable, to hurt them. There was never any ill intent with anything I did. I really have to emphasise that point.
Yeah, that's fine.
I was a very tactile, very huggy, very over-the-top person like that, and it clearly made people feel uncomfortable, and I've apologised for that. There was never any intent to...
Were you aware that it made them uncomfortable at the time?
No.
So what would you do? Just hug them? Or?
Yeah. As I say, tactile sort of person. It's and I think the media, even more than other industries, it's a very...
Did you do the same at TVNZ? Was that still? Did you do the same sort of thing?
Oh, it was all around me at TVNZ. I mean, that was what I experienced there. That it's a very, and TVNZ, any media industry, I think a very tactile. Hugs and things. Yeah.
But did you take it too far, or did you think you took it too far inappropriately? You can't say.
I really can't talk about things at TVNZ for legal reasons. I can't. So,
was there an official complaint about you? Because when you left that day, you left for the family emergency. Whose words were they?
They were mine.
Who came up with that? You came up with that? Yep.
Yeah. That was a point of contention for a long time, and it was the subject of an OIA request from an outlet here. Why did TVNZ characterise my departure as a family emergency? It was me who asked for that.
When I saw that, I was deeply worried that something had happened to a family member.
I understand why people might have thought that, but I can promise you it was a family emergency for us.
Still is, isn't it?
And still is. I promise you that. Yeah.
Okay. So you don't think you misled or anything in that sense?
It was a family emergency for us.
TVNZ, what did they? When you went out the door that day, did you think you were coming back?
I'd hope to. Yes.
And how did they leave it? How did they leave things with you on that? You can't say. Okay, so you went home that day, and never came back. You're now taking legal action.
Yeah,
you're looking at legal action.
Yes, I'm looking. Yeah, well, have lodged proceedings with the Employment Relations Authority against TVNZ relating to my employment there, which, as you point out, was 32 days. But this relates to my time there and beyond, and I would include the 4-day period where between the resignation, which was on the 28th of May, and my last day of employment at TVNZ, which was actually the 31st of May. There were 4 days there where I was still an employee, even though I'd resigned and wasn't coming back. My team and my legal team and I have decided this is the way to approach it now. So
what's the claim? That you were treated, unfairly? Or
it's just relating to employment matters.
Process.
That's what I'll say at the moment.
Did they follow a process? I mean, was there a formal process? With employment matters, there are processes. There's warnings, there's first warnings, there's sitting down, there's investigating properly. Do you feel like there's a proper investigation?
Look, this is why I'm taking the action, and all of this will come out in the fullness of time.
So when's that going to happen? What's
soon?
It's
already been lodged.
It's with the ERA.
Yes, with the ERA. It's already been lodged. Yes.
And what's your legal advice? That you got a pretty good case, or what's the situation?
I'm doing it because I feel very, very strongly about setting the record straight, and about doing it through official channels.
What do you want to prove?
That the picture that was painted of me and the story that was painted of me is not the full story. It's not the facts. And I've never had any problem with the facts coming out. In fact, I want them to. For so long I wasn't able to speak for legal reasons, and I'm still, for some things, still can't talk about. But this is why I'm going through the official channels, like I did with the Privacy Commission over the Robbins report, like I had to engage with the Chief Ombudsman over an OIA. I feel very strongly about going through the right channels and putting it all on official record. You
would like the record set straight in terms of what, that you didn't engage in that behaviour, or that you were unfairly misrepresented?
Well, that I was an employee of TVNZ as well, and my side of the story, if you like, or what happened to me, has not been fully told, and I believe this is the best way to do it. There's been so much of what has happened with me has been done through the media. It's been done through anonymous people in the media. I don't believe in doing all of that. I believe in doing it the right way.
Was there a witch hunt? Are you saying there was a witch hunt against you internally at TVNZ? Do you think because you were appointed, you were shoulder tapped, you came across to TVNZ, you're an outsider as such, as you describe it, do you think that people set upon trying to expose you or get you as a result?
You'd have to ask people at TVNZ that.
What's your feeling?
I know that presenting roles are highly prized, and I'm sure in many businesses as well, when an outsider comes in, there will be some people who will think, "Oh, well, don't know about that." But that's a
Did you feel any of that
that's a
when you got
question
there?
that's a question for people at TVNZ.
Yeah, did you feel any of that when you got there, that there was a bit of cold shoulder? Can't say. Do you think you were treated fairly by TVNZ? Do you think they followed a process? This is all part of your legal action. Okay. And you've been advised you can't say anything?
I've been advised that there's very little I can say at this way. Again, the idea of taking action through the Employment Relations Authority is that it comes out properly and legally.
But you're outside the 90 days for personal grievance, so you've put in a statement from something else, have you?
Statement of problem.
Statement of problem, is that that's
That's
allowed under the law?
the official term for it, yes.
Okay, and the statement of problem goes to seek what? What are you trying to seek here? Just trying to work out what you're trying to prove.
I'd say I'm trying to put the facts out there.
Yeah, you're trying to put the facts.
Because they've not been out there, and it's created a narrative and a story around me, and I want the record set straight. And that's all I can say about it. I just feel very, very strongly about taking that position.
Do you regret any of the behaviour that has either been made public and misconstrued, or is real? Do you regret anything that you did at TVNZ?
Can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it. Okay. And what about funding of your legal case? How's that going to go? Because it's hugely expensive. But I've been through this.
Yeah. Gonna have. Well, clearly I'm not, as you said, not employed and no great prospects. When your name's mud, your name's mud. But yeah, I'm gonna have to sell my house to fund our ongoing existence and the legal case, and that's pretty drastic. But again, it's that's how strongly me and my family feel about doing this properly. And I know it sounds like a talk.
It's a pretty drastic measure to sell your house to fund.
It's a reality. It's a reality.
Yeah, because you believe in it.
Yeah, and because what are my prospects for gainful employment? They're not great unless I can actually get out there, set the record straight, tell people, show them officially what went on and what didn't go on and what was true and what wasn't true. That will, I hope, help. I'm not going to say clear my name, but at least people won't have that.
Okay,
won't have that picture.
Because I know there's something you can't speak about. But are you confident that you can present and get accepted in the court something different to what's been published already? The picture that's been presented of you.
I hope so. Yes.
Are you confident that you can present another picture to the court?
I hope so.
Yeah. What about TVNZ itself? Will they? Because it's a process thing as well, isn't it? Because what I'm trying to work out here is when you were out the door, you thought you might come back, but was there an official process followed for you? You can't talk about that. This is very much part of the statement. Okay, back to your house then. God, that's a big drastic measure, isn't it? To sell your house to fund your. Yeah. You must believe in yourself.
I do. And the easy thing to do would have been to pack up and leave after all this has happened and go again. But this is, and believe me, there were plenty of people telling me, go home to where you came from and things like that, the usual racist stuff. This is my home. We came here to live. My daughter is at school here and enjoys it. And she is the number one priority for us. And so if that means selling the house to keep funding our lives and to keep funding this legal fight, then that's what we have to do.
It's totally life-changing though, isn't it?
It is. And do
you think the punishment's too big for the crime?
I think I think there are levels of things which happen, and that in the case of broadly speaking here, sort of Me Too type things, they can't all be lumped in the one basket.
Hmm.
And I think to a degree that's what happened with me.
I'll ask you one last question, because I think you've been going for quite a while. Do you feel like you have anything to apologise for?
I have apologised. You've read my statements.
I have read your statement, but what have you apologised for?
I've apologised for behaviour which I've now learnt, made people feel uncomfortable. It was, as I again point out, it was done with no malintent, and done with no intention to exert power over anyone or anything like that. But I have to acknowledge that people have felt uncomfortable, and I have apologised for that, and I'll apologise again now. But what has happened since, and the picture painted of me since, is not A, entirely accurate, and B, it's not fair either.
So that's why you're doing this?
It's part of it. It's part of it.
Would you have thought that the apologies and during the process would have been enough for you to carry on, or do you think your behaviour was of such that you couldn't go back into it?
No, I think you hope when you make an apology that people will accept it. And a lot of the stuff I saw at the time was people saying, "Oh, he's apologising without apologising. Really, doesn't really mean it and all that." No, I do. I genuinely apologise for, any behaviour which might have made anyone feel uncomfortable. But I don't. I believe there has to be. I don't know if redemption is the word, but put it this way: who decides? Who decides now when someone can make a comeback or is allowed back? Who makes that decision?
Well, I suppose it's the first person to employ you.
Well, I'm still waiting for them to come along.
Do you think you're employable? Have you tried to get work?
Yeah, definitely. I've applied for jobs, and in the full knowledge that they're going to see the name and go, "Oi."
Look, have they got back to you? Have they said what they said?
No, I've just had the sort of generic email back saying, not at this time, that sort of thing. But
what are you going to do?
But look,
you're still, how old are you?
43.
43?
Yep.
How are you going to work?
I don't know. This is the thing. I still believe I have a lot to offer, journalistically speaking, professionally speaking. I have been doing this for 25 years. And I have got experience and knowledge. I mean, gosh, right now watching what's happening in Gaza and Israel, I think this was my bread and butter for 16 years. This is what I reported on, so much. And so I do believe I've got plenty to offer, but it's in that sense, it's kind of not up to me.
No, and because this is a small fishbowl here,
absolutely,
there won't be work in the media, will there?
Probably not. I mean, look, I think it's probably difficult enough to get media jobs
anyway.
If your name hasn't been dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
And things have the media's the industry is really small now.
Do you worry that during this interview today might bring other people out of the woodwork, or do you think there's anyone else that could complain about you?
Oh God, who knows? I mean, I've been. When you've been as low as I have, you sort of think, well, I've been kicked as much. How much lower can they drag you?
Yeah. With regard to the future, are you hopeful about your future?
I have to be. I have to think, and my mum keeps telling me this as well, saying, you have to believe that at some point things will turn, things will change. And that's why I take these steps along the way, the official steps I've taken, the statements I've put out, talking to you. That's why I take them as all ways of pushing the needle, hopefully. So I have to be hopeful. I've been a journalist since I was 18 at TV3.
I remember.
And this is what I do. I believe I'm still pretty good at it.
Yeah.
And
do you believe you're employable and back into a newsroom? Would you change your way? Would you?
Oh, look, I mean, I have completely, looked at my own behaviour, and I would say that I've completely, and I almost use this as a warning to anyone else, male or female. You really have to think about what you do and what you say, because anything can be taken the wrong way. It can be misinterpreted. It can be revisited later. I don't shake hands with people anymore. Really, I'm very, very conscious that I would not touch anyone because I don't want there to be any grey area.
In when you're overseas, was it more accepted in the culture where you were in Al Jazeera, and then you came back to New Zealand and you'd maybe underestimated that the newsrooms and the level of
possibly
the power of women within the newsroom? What have you? Do you think you might have misjudged that? They're very, perhaps of different workplaces. What you got away with, perhaps there, which you thought may have been normal, wouldn't have been accepted here. And did you?
Well, in hindsight, I could say yes, but it's, as I've said, I was also in any media environment I've been in has always been a very tactile. Loving's not the word. What is the word?
It's personable, isn't it? When you're in a newsroom. Is that what you mean?
The disparaging way to say it would be media lovies, the way that we're referred to. But I in the brief time I was at TVNZ, I thought it was very friendly and tactile. Guests were being hugged and stuff like that. So I didn't.
But you weren't. Your resignation wasn't forced because you were hugging people, was it?
I can't talk about it.
Okay. There'll be a lot of media interest in this, obviously, as you can imagine. Do you want to say anything to your media colleagues? Do you want to send a message to anyone within the media? Use this opportunity, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's difficult because I wouldn't mind being employed as well one day. But look, the media is there. We are here to, and it's the classic phrases that are used to hold power to account, speak truth to power, all these sorts of things. And that is 100% what the media should be doing. The media also needs to be accountable for their own actions. I have a lot of concerns about the allegations that were made against me. They were all 99% of them were anonymous. I understand why anonymity is used, but anonymity also means that people and their motivations can't be scrutinized. And I fear that, well, I know the allegation is enough now because I've experienced it, but my fear is that media are happy to go with an allegation and just report the allegation without doing the full due diligence on where it's come from and who it's come from.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Is that a fear?
How do you mean?
Well, if the allegations are being made by a number of people with similar allegations.
Oh, look, I can understand why people would want to investigate, but investigate properly. And I showed it in. There was a report done about me by Alison Moore, who's now left Stuff. She was the Me Too editor at the time. She wrote an article interviewing my former co-host at Al Jazeera, who accused me of 6 years of harassment. It took me a full year, really, to actually go back to that story and look at it. And I thought
6 years is a long time if you're harassing someone.
Well, she was, this former co-host, we were very close friends. It's as simple as that. And the thing is that I provided ample evidence to Alison Moore and to Stuff to show the other side of the story. She had been presented with one side, texts or things like that. And I said, here's the other side. And it all just got ignored.
Do you think that Me Too movement has been has rushed to see your demise when they haven't seen all the facts?
No, exactly, and that's why. And one, I was able to provide the facts. Two, they were ignored, and I outlined that. I did a big piece about it called "Setting the Record Straight."
Yes.
And I laid out all the information there. And there were even times where. Initially, when because I read that article once and just went, oh God, I can't. It took me a year to come back to it. But there were things in there where I thought, I didn't say that. It's written then. He wrote or he wrote X, Y, and Z, and then I went back through old messages and said, oh no, I didn't write that. That was like a meme that I sent or something like that. It was, information was selectively used to support the narrative against me. And, I would say anyone who's listening to this or watching this, sorry to plug it here, but go to my website and read that piece that I wrote because it shows you I've laid it out step by step. Here's what was printed, here's the context, and here's the context that I presented to the reporter, which they chose to ignore. I feel the agenda takes over.
Right. But you've apologised to all the people that you think you've needed to.
I've made a public apology.
What about your mental health? We talked about this earlier in the interview. Have you got support? Because it's not whatever has happened, and you need to stay alive. In my view, and it worries me to hear as a journalist, but also as someone who actually worries about this sort of thing, because I've been in a couple of dark spots myself. Have you got someone to talk to, or someone to help you through that? Because that's the last thing I would want, is to wake up tomorrow and see that something's happened to you. So have you got someone?
I've got support. I've been, doctors, medication for a long time, and my family are extraordinary in the help that they've given me, given the pressure that they were under as well.
Has TVNZ provided any support in that sense?
I'm not an employee of TVNZ.
No, but when you were employed in those last 4 days?
Every TVNZ employee, as I think with a lot of companies, has access to
that one, that thing,
internal
counselling. Yeah. So they gave you they offered that to you.
Yeah, as they would to any employee.
Yeah. Okay. Good talking to you. Yeah, I don't know. I to be honest, I don't feel overly. I don't feel overly hopeful for the future. I just think that it's a brutal, tough world.
You're talking media-wise?
Yeah, for your prospects.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. No, it does feel like there's days when you just wake up and think, oh, what's the point? And that's when you can have those dark moments, and you hope that it
side hustle.
Hope it doesn't catch you at a particularly vulnerable moment. But I just have to. I have to believe the wind will turn at some point, because otherwise, I won't be here. And I wouldn't be here if I'd let that happen.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that if I didn't have the belief in the future and that things will get better, I wouldn't be here now. Hang on, have I said that right?
Can they get any worse?
God, I'd hope not.
Yeah, okay, so you're at rock bottom.
I'd hope not.
Well, you're selling your house to do this, to fund this legal case, so you must believe in it.
Yeah, I do, and that's the point I keep coming back to. I feel so strongly about setting the record straight and doing it in the right manner. So much of what has happened to me, I believe, has been done in the wrong manner. Through leaks, through anonymity, through all these sorts of things. I didn't speak up at the time, and you didn't put a defence up earlier. Well, no, I didn't. This is the thing. I
didn't think you did either.
No, and this thing, one, it was physically and mentally unable to. But the other thing is that a lot of the advice I received at the time was, don't say anything, keep quiet. The context won't matter. You just have to let it pass.
Who gave you that advice?
Various people around me, professional advice. I don't believe that is the right advice, certainly now. I think things have changed, and that if you are at all able to, you need to speak up. Because otherwise the narrative...
So who should speak up? The
accused.
The accused should
because otherwise,
put the story out there early.
Well, otherwise the narrative is dictated by everyone else.
Correct.
And that's what happened with me. And my advice to anyone now would be, no, you do speak up. Make your apologies if you have to, but also speak up and don't allow everyone else to dictate what happens.
Because you spoke up probably too late.
Look, as I said, a number of times, for legal reasons, I couldn't speak, and for physical and mental, I physically was not able to.
Do you think TVNZ would have held on to you had you spoken and put your case?
Say again?
Would TVNZ have hung on to you had you put your case? Did they allow you to put your case?
Ask them.
Well, there was a process though, wasn't there? The parties got together, and you apologised in house. That wasn't enough.
It's still, I can't talk about it.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Okay, all the best.
Thank you, Duncan.
Hang in there.
Cheers.
Okay.